Good evening, everybody. Meteorologist Brett Adair. We're down on US 27. We're driving right now in through west central Georgia, just southeast of Columbus, headed toward the coastline. We're going to overnight tonight in Tallahassee, Florida. We are just north of Lumpkin, Georgia. We're going to travel down into Tallahassee, stay there as we're awaiting for the impacts of Tropical Storm Debby, which as of 8 p.m. is still a very minimal tropical storm. It's moving off toward the northwest at 14. So we are away from Cuba now. We've entered the Gulf of Mexico, and we are beginning to see some of those bands, especially across southern sections of Florida now, with tropical storm force winds impacting areas down in the dry Tortugas, the Western Keys, Key West, that area. There's been some squally weather down through there all evening. Gusty winds over 50 miles an hour have been pretty common from Miami back in toward Key West. And as you can see, that whole area there along the Western Peninsula is under a tropical storm warning until you get well to the north, where we actually have hurricane warnings in effect from the Suwannee River to the Ocklawahnee River. I believe that's how you pronounce that. In the Big Bend region of Florida, we're expecting a landfalling hurricane early on Monday. At this point, it looks like it may be a minimal storm. But again, you can see satellite imagery there showing that we do finally have some organized banding taking place there west of the Florida Peninsula. There's a cold frontal boundary up to the north of the Gulf Coast there, extending north of Lake Charles back over southern Mississippi, Alabama, up into southeast Georgia. We're actually driving into a little bit of the rainfall now. We can hear that possibly hitting our windshield. But you can see that's a big area there of spin in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico as Debby does begin to get organized somewhat this hour. So the computer model output that we've been looking at, some of our spaghetti plots, have shifted toward the left today. And that is evidence there on those new model runs. Debby kind of trickling back toward the west into Apalachicola Bay. Going to be a very close call there for areas from Panama City to Port St. Joe over toward St. Mark's. St. Mark's is actually where I'm going to go down to tomorrow. Got some friends down there. Going to discuss the system, look at some of the properties, see the preparations along the coastline there in the Big Bend region. This is one of the lower areas of population other than Tallahassee proper there on the I-10 corridor. Tallahassee, Perry, Jacksonville, those areas dealt with the impacts of Hurricane Idalia last year, which was one of the strongest hurricanes to get into this portion of the northeastern Gulf of Mexico in history. So that's something that we're going to be watching for as time goes along. The other thing that we're really concerned about is you notice the system moves into the Gulf of Mexico, moves toward the north, and it looks like it slows down as it gets toward the coastline. It really goes in, makes landfall, and kind of meanders there, potentially in northeast Florida, southern Georgia, maybe coastal South Carolina for several days. And the concern for that is very heavy rainfall. The Weather Prediction Center, the hydrologist there putting out outlooks now, projecting 12 to 24 inches of rain even potentially there along the coastline from south of Savannah up through Savannah, Charleston, and maybe in areas near Myrtle Beach along the coastline there. Still, 8 to 14 inches of rain is expected in the Big Bend region there as this system makes landfall, specifically depending upon how long it takes it to move across the peninsula and up into the Carolinas and Georgia. That's going to be something we watch over the next couple of days with very, very big caution, because these systems, as they spawn potential for tornadoes, number one, and as they slow down, they also cause problems with very heavy rain. Of rain, 1 to 2 feet even in the Savannah area and up into Charleston, will be catastrophic. Those areas are very flood prone, low lying, fill up. So you'd have to deal with the onshore side of the system. So you got water coming in from the Atlantic side, as well as issues with the rainfall. So that's kind of what we're looking at this evening. Debby's still a minimal tropical storm, 40-mile-per-hour winds currently, but that's what we've got for you so far with the latest info. You can see there Drew, I'm going to let you pop in here because I can't see that too well. Got Drew Richards here in the studio helping out tonight. He's going to give you some details on those tropical storm force winds when they're supposed to begin.
Yeah, good deal. So again, everyone, I just put in chat, we do have a few questions. So Brett, I'll go ahead and read a couple of those, and you can be maybe working on the answer while we talk about the arrival of tropical storm force winds. Ginger asking, what will it be like in Sarasota County tonight and tomorrow? So Ginger, we'll get to that here in just a minute. And also, what is it looking like for Northport tonight and tomorrow? They're in Florida. So again, we will get to that. Pat's asking about Jacksonville, so we'll talk about Jacksonville here in a minute. Bobby, to answer your question, yes, Brett is on the way down right now to chase this, what will be hurricane. So as Brett said, we're looking at real quick, earliest arrival time of the tropical storm force wind. So this is when pretty much you need to be ready to take shelter indoors. Don't be outside trying to do any preparations when you've got 40+ mile per hour winds coming at you. So west side of Florida, all the way up into the Tampa Bay area. Believe it or not, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. is what it says there on the graphic from the National Weather Service. So you guys may have tropical storm force winds as early as 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in the Tampa Bay area. And then as you go on up north of the Tampa, up towards the Big Bend area, you're looking at between 2 and 8 p.m. tomorrow night is when we expect those tropical storm force winds to arrive. So if you're further north and east, like Jacksonville, overnight Sunday night into Monday morning looks to be your arrival time for the tropical storm force winds. And depending on how strong this storm gets, of course, we are expecting it to be a Cat 1 hurricane at landfall. So right there around the core, we do expect 75+ mile per hour winds until this weakens a little bit inland. Let's see. Trying to see if we have anything else on the question side while Brett's working on those earlier ones. Brett, they're asking where you're going to be at for the storm. Wherever the storm comes in is usually where Brett's going to be at, right there in the middle of it.
For a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Back to you, Brett, if you're still with us. Oh, we may have lost him temporarily. Let's see. I prepared for this. I thought we might lose Brett there for a minute. He's on the road. He's in that heavy rain. He does have the Starlink backup. There we go. We got Brett back. Good deal. Brett, back to you. We were about to answer some of those questions, but can you hear us?
Yeah, Drew, I can hear you. Sorry about that, guys. We actually are going through Cuthbert, Georgia, in a pretty heavy storm here right now on Highway 27 headed south. But to answer some of those questions down there for Florida areas, all right, all of you guys later tonight are going to have the opportunity to have some of these fans come ashore, flash flooding, isolated damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes are likely as we get a little bit later into the nighttime hours tonight. So that's the potential problem that we could deal with going through time is, we're going to see more of the bands move further north. We're seeing special marine warnings already down across portions of east and eastern Florida. So that's already problematic. But that's what we're going to be dealing with as we go through time, as this system continues to push toward the north.
So Brett got you some current radar there that we can talk about, and we'll look at that model as well here again in a minute.
Yeah, Drew, you can see the current radar data there. Shows your hurricane warnings. Those are tropical storm warnings. Those warnings there on the western and southwestern coast of Florida, where we've got basically active tropical storm conditions in those bands. You're talking 40+ mile per hour gusts that have been occurring. We've seen gusts upwards of 50, 55 miles an hour there. The Miami area, over into the western section of the Keys as well. You can see that spin, that circulation there, over pretty close to the Dry Tortugas. It's west of Key West at this point, and that is continuing to get a little bit better organized as we go through time and as this center of circulation moves further away from Cuba and off toward the north and west. That's going to give it, the Gulf of Mexico is very, very warm at the moment, and that's providing the fuel for the possibility of this continuing to strengthen all the way up to landfall and becoming a hurricane. The question is just how far to the west do we see this system tick over the next 24, 36 hours before it comes inland into the Big Bend region. But again, I believe this is going to be the Barron model going in time here. You can see we really starting to see things get organized, and that eastern and northeastern side is really the most potent area. And you see those little cellular elements within that. Those are going to be the cells that you're going to have to watch for the potential of those stronger updrafts and developing into small mini type supercells within the bands that could produce tornadoes. But you see the north side of that system really get cranking later tomorrow night before it moves in and makes landfall. So this is one of those systems that we're likely going to see intensify now from now going forward all the way up to landfall. It's just going to be really a question of how quickly we do see that thing wrap completely up. You see it's kind of like a donut there, and it moves in and approaches east of Apalachicola, Alligator Point, St. Mark's. Several of those areas going to be in the line of fire of the worst of this. Steinhatchee, you dealt with Adair last year, which was a major hit. Perry, several of those areas, Chiefland, and then it really just wrecks, sits over and spins and hammers portions of Tallahassee as well. So we're going to be, monitoring the situation for the next several days as we continue on our intercept this system as it comes in. But you can see there, this is just one model output, by the way, but you can see that band to the east of the center there with those little isolated blips that have higher reflectivity values. Those are going to be the type of system that we have to watch for to produce tornadoes with those incoming cells and developing cells within that feeder band. And that not only the eyewall feature there, it really portion of Tallahassee region. Motherfucker.
All right, guys, we'll get Brett back there in just a minute. But again, he was talking about those feeder bands coming around on the right side of the storm, bringing, of course, that tornado threat and the big-time flooding. Look at all this rain up to the north near Brunswick, Georgia, and up to Savannah, Georgia. So, well before the center of the storm even gets close to you guys up there, all the way up to Charleston, South Carolina. You guys know Charleston floods. You can get a summertime thunderstorm over Charleston, and it will flood out like crazy. So I really think we have a serious flash flood situation coming at us there for coastal South Carolina, coastal Georgia, even portions of inland southern Georgia as well. Looks like we got Brett back with us.
Sorry, guys. I've been in and out of heavy rainfall here, so it's kind of messing my signal up just a bit. But we're gonna keep this short and sweet. Drew, do we have any other questions? Again, you can see there from the Barron model, big time rain and wind event likely incoming with this system.
Yeah, Brett, the other questions, I think we touched on Jacksonville area there. Heavy rain, tornadoes. You guys are going to be on the east side of that storm, so definitely is going to be a rough go there in the Jacksonville area. We talked about, let's see, Northport, Florida, and Sarasota County as well. So, again, the Sarasota County, Sarasota area, Northport area, right there north of Port Charlotte. We'll run through this model again and just kind of focus on Northport, Port Charlotte, and up to Sarasota. So there comes those supercell structures again on the east side of that storm. And then just, yep, you're missed by the center. So, you don't get those probably hurricane-forced wind gusts, but very heavy rain, lots of flooding, and some tropical tornadoes possible for you guys. Northport up to St. Pete, Tampa, and the Sarasota area. I believe, Brett, Andy's saying about the aren't current river levels above normal in areas common to landfall and beyond. Andy, not sure about that. Brett may be able to touch better on that. We've kind of had a drier spell here over the southeast, so probably if I had to guess, I'd say river levels are probably near normal for this time of the year. Brett, would you agree, disagree?
They've been a little bit above normal, Drew, with basically what's been ongoing down there. They've had day after day rainfall. My sister lives down in this area just off the coastline. She's closer to Chiefland, I do believe, and they've been dealing with rainfall day after day. So the river levels might be running a touch to the high side, but again, that's we'll kind of see how that goes over the course of the next 24 hours and watch those. You're going to see the river levels come up anyway on the western side because you're going to deal with onshore flow there off the Gulf of Mexico. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
the Steinhatchee River during Adalia was a big deal once the storm surge came in. That was one of the areas that got hit really hard as that system came in with a water push. So that's going to still be an issue. Um, I've got a couple other things, Drew. Trying to see if there's a way for me to send you. Actually, you know what, Drew? There is. I'm going to guide you to a product on Tomer's page, I do
Okay.
believe.
You can just put it in chat there if you want to, and I can grab the link.
I'm about to do that. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. This is problematic and concerning for what I'm seeing. We might want to pull that graphic up right there.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that a little bit. That model there that was showing, that Drew was showing, had the core really becoming established before it comes on shore. If that happens earlier, with this being a pretty compact core, we might have a problem with rapid intensification. And some of the zero-Z plots are actually pointing toward a possible problem. That's what I'm going to show you here. Okay, all right. Drew's working on getting our graphic loaded here, so he's jumping off for just a second. We're running through storms here. Let me see if I can actually pull the radar up and show you guys where we are located at the present time. Oh, there we go. Drew's got up. This is the ships. It's one of the models that we use for intensity, and intensity forecasts are really pretty abysmal in most cases. But what you see there is you're seeing very high probabilities of rapid intensification. You're seeing greater than 30% of 45, 55, and 65 knots within 48 and 72 hours. That's 7 to 8 times the climatological mean, which means that the probabilities are very high now that we could see.
All right, guys, hang with us here. We'll get Brett back here in just a minute. Again, he's in and out of heavy rainfall there. Going towards, I think he said Tallahassee here later tonight. But again, what he was saying before he broke up, notice on the chart, right kind of in the middle of your screen, right where my mouse cursor is, rapid intensification probabilities. And notice where we've got all that red. And at the bottom, it again shows 5 times climo, 6 times climatological mean or average. Look at here. 8 times for the 45 knot 36 hour time frame. So these are basically time frames that are going out for the storm, and it's saying basically 36 hours out we have a 38% chance of rapid intensification, which is 8 times higher than normal. So while we are now forecasting this to be a category 1 hurricane as it's coming up the west side of Florida, we will have to hope that it doesn't get stronger than that. Is pretty much where Brett was going with that graphic. That's a great graphic, and like I said, we'll have him back here in just a minute. He is fighting some heavy rainfall, fighting some signal issues there as he's heading down to the coast. So let's just interact with you guys in chat. Let us know where y'all are watching from tonight if you've not already, while we wait on Brett to pop back in here. And Orlando, I don't know if y'all saw here just a few minutes ago, I did put Orlando up on our forecast model there. So same thing that we talked about, Tampa down to Sarasota will be the case for Orlando. Probably not a lot of wind issues unless you get those tropical tornadoes, which is a very real possibility. But there in Orlando, notice here, we'll pause this. Not a lot happening through 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and that's in Central Time. We're in Central Time, so that when you see that clock right here at the bottom, add an hour to that, of course, for you guys on the Eastern Time Zone. But as we go through the midday hours tomorrow, that's where we'll probably have a tornado watch already in effect for Central Florida. Notice about 1:15 Eastern time, we've got those cellular sales showing up, cellular sales. And brain's not kicking tonight, guys. I apologize. And then as we continue through the day, notice how we just have those band after band after band coming through the Orlando, Kissimmee area, all the way up to Daytona Beach. May get a little dry slot, may get a little break. This is about midnight tomorrow night into Monday morning. And then more heavy rain, more rain bands moving in. And I'm telling you, if one of these rain bands set up over your backyard or your town, these tropical rain bands can drop 2 or 3 or 4 inches of rain in an hour. So you can really have some serious flash flood issues when you get parked under one of those tropical rain bands. So hopefully, again, we get those to move in and out and we don't get them parked over one area, because that's where you can have catastrophic flooding from these tropical systems. Christine watching from Germany, glad to have you with us. Kendall watching from Ocala tonight. So there you are in Ocala. We'll play that loop through again so you can see Ocala there in the middle of your screen. Patricia watching from Oklahoma, glad to have you with us. We got Ireland in the house. Good to have you here. Illinois, Laura Ann, glad to see you. And it looks like we got Brett back. So Brett, we were just going through chat here for a minute, seeing where everybody's tuning in from and answering some more questions in chat. So glad to have you back.
Yeah, Drew, it looks like we actually went offline on LSM's YouTube, so I don't really know what in the world's going on.
Okay.
But, again, rapid intensification possibilities, they kind of are concerning to me based on what I was just looking at. We were talking about. I heard you mentioning that. And then the heavy rain, obviously, is also a big deal, Drew. So we're headed to Tallahassee for now. We've been in and out of heavy rain. That's been the problem for us trying to get situated with this stream, unfortunately. Sorry about that, guys. I don't have everything set up in the truck tonight. We're also building a new truck, so we'll be able to unveil that thing soon. And we've got some new tech equipment that's supposed to put us in a much better position with internet signal, even better than we have with just our Starlink and our other signals. So that's exciting. You can see there, though, it's very little time that we have in the Gulf of Mexico, but if we can get an inner core to wrap up, I've seen crazy things happen. Hurricane Harvey was a tropical storm to a Cat 4 in a matter of 24 hours. So tonight will be very important, determining the inner core situation. And by this time tomorrow morning, if we wake up to a stronger storm than we anticipate, we're going to really have to start sounding some alarms for potentially a more impactful hurricane in the area. But anyway, Drew, I think for me, we can answer a couple more questions, but I think that's all I've got tonight. We've got Debbie. Debbie's developing, getting stronger. Going to take its time for a little bit, we think, tonight, and then we'll really see if this thing can take off into tomorrow and get a better idea as we watch some of the cloud tops, the cooler cloud tops now start to develop around that center of circulation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And guys in chat, let us know if you've got any more last minute questions before we wrap this thing up here in just a few minutes. I think so far I've double checked and I believe I hit all your specific questions. So if y'all have any more, let us know. And Brett will make sure we get to those before we wrap this up. So Brett, what's your plan for, I know you're heading down tonight, spend the night. What's your plan for tomorrow? If you could just tell everybody kind of what y'all do behind the scenes when we're not live, when you're looking at the system and trying to figure out, what you're going to do the day before landfall, maybe the 12 hours before landfall, take them through that while we're seeing if they have any more questions.
Well, guys, I basically go down and cover this as a journalist, so I'm also going to be out reporting. I'll be going and talking to some of the residents down along the coastline of, where this landfall is supposed to occur, see how they're preparing, and we'll be putting tidbits of this up on our platforms, social media, meteorologist Brett Adair, YouTube and Facebook channels, and then Live Stores Media will also display a ton of our content throughout the event. We've got a lot of people down here stringer wise, so we're going to have a lot of different images for you guys as we go through the system. So we're going to get some good food and some rest tonight in Tallahassee. We'll get up tomorrow. We'll start looking to make sure we don't need anything in terms of supplies for preparation, and then we will be getting ready to go and maybe even chase some of those bands, Drew, the outer bands that could be impactful in terms of tornadoes and isolated flash flooding before the core of the system moves in, either late tomorrow night or Monday morning. Definitely looks like we're going to see a near Cat 1 hurricane at the minimum as it comes on shore. And then we've really got to watch out and see if this thing's going to stall and meander for a couple of days. And if so, I really hate to tell you that we could have some catastrophic type flooding in the forecast.
Definitely looks that way, Brett. And again, I really don't like that stall there around Savannah, Georgia, and all the way up to the Carolinas. I was looking; it's kind of funny. We don't use the NAM very often. It's kind of a joke during tropical systems for obvious reasons. But the NAM is really kind of wanting to take that thing into South Georgia, and then it kind of wants to pull the thing westward into Alabama. So it's kind of all out there by itself. But, when we're looking at these tropical systems, just for the fun of it, I do like to look at every model, even the ones that are kind of a joke, because, again, it's just trying to figure out what all scenarios may be on the board. I didn't mean to do that. And, here we go. We can loop through that right here. I don't know what it was seeing, so notice we get that, again, way stronger than it will be hurricane. That's not, NAM is notorious for making hurricanes infinitely stronger than usually they are. But notice how it comes even further west, almost into southwestern Georgia, and it's kind of pausing and hanging out there. So, again, be interesting to compare all these models as we get into tomorrow. Maybe we can do another show tomorrow, depending on you guys' schedule, and kind of update everybody with the model trends.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a show at some point, Drew. And again, we'll be throwing content. Then we'll also be setting up our live, where we'll have our basically IRL stream that you'll see on my YouTube channel and probably here on the Facebook page as we go into the storm itself. Either late tomorrow night, Monday morning, maybe both. We may run 2 streams. We'll set those up and go ahead and schedule those here soon. But yes, that's kind of the plan. We're going to continue on to the south. It looks like we got about an hour and a half left to ride to Tallahassee. So once we get there, we're going to grab us some food, get some rest tonight, and then we'll see what happens.
Sounds good. Well, Brett, I don't see any more last-minute questions, so you guys be safe tonight. Y'all have a good rest of the night and trip down. And, again, like Brett said, we'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Brett, you want to take us out?
Everybody, just pay attention to the National Weather Service. We do have active hurricane warnings now in the Big Bend. As you can see, models are still showing landfalling likely, minimal hurricane at the least as this system moves up into the Big Bend. Hurricane warnings in effect. As of 8 p.m., still a minimal tropical storm. We're starting to see it organize some. For Drew Richards, I'm meteorologist Brett Adair. Hang in there with us. We'll be posting more on social media, and we will have a live update at some point tomorrow afternoon.